process
Would it
played
help
out.
if I went over the sections of the gun bill?
John, would you first explain to people your bill, SB 124, because you led the charge on this high-capacity magazine from day one.
Yeah,
So I think
my bill is dead. It's not going forward.
But you still initiated
I
it.
supported a ban on the sale of high-capacity magazines.
Why?
Over
And-
10
and-
rounds.
and the other
And
thing-
I can
And-
switch a mag in 2 seconds and knock out this whole room in 15 seconds.
The other question I have for you, and I won't say anything more, but I live in Sandy Hook. And I've watched since day one this whole thing, and you've been part of this, to rush this through legislation without the benefit of a police report. Our chief of police in Newtown came out today and said that this should be stopped until the report is seen by everybody. Yet you continue to push for this high magazine. And I don't understand it. You're the highest ranking elected Republican in our government, and it seems like you're leading the attack, that Malloy's leading the attack, instead of saying as a group, halt, we're not going forward with anything until the final police reports come out. And I want to know where the level of responsibility is from you as Senate Minority Leader is when you can't stand up and say that we're going to slow this down until the emotions die down, till the people in Newtown heal from this, instead of throwing them out in front of the cameras.
Ron, the people of Newtown are never going to heal for this. And you know that because you live there. Okay?
But
There's
I
no
know-
healing. There is no healing.
There's no healing, but what they're seeing is one side of this issue.
Look,
So you're gonna change the rules for
Can I
everybody in
answer
2016?
questions, and then you can ask as many as you want. I won't interrupt you, or you don't interrupt me. This bill has had more public hearings and more hours of testimony than any bill in 15 years, and that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. This subject has had more discussion on both sides, and that's a good thing. I've had people say, I've never called my state senator before, I'm paying attention now, and my response is, well, where the heck have you been? I need you to pay attention on everything. You know, we're losing jobs, our budget is broke. But, you know, it is April 2nd tomorrow, I guess, or April 3rd tomorrow when we're gonna vote? That's the middle of our session. We're 60% of the way through a session. This hasn't been rushed through this session. With respect to the police report, we don't know if we're ever going to get all of the information. For example, I've had the state's attorney in my office. I've had Mr. Sedensky in my office. It is the opinion of the state's attorney's office that the medical records of both the killer and his mother and their privacy to those medical records under federal law survived their death. I didn't believe that was the case, but that's what they're telling me. We're never going to get information about their medical records.
That sounds like a cover-up.
It's not a cover-up. That's what the law is, John.
I know, but
That's what the
maybe-
law.
maybe
That's what the
perhaps you
law
should
is. So
change
we're
the
gonna.
law. I mean,
So we're
this is
gonna.
such a
Well, I
personal
can't
case.
change federal law.
How are you gonna?
I can't.
That's-
Let me.
that's a
I
good
can't
point,
change.
John.
I can't change federal law.
Get that quote out. You
So-
can't
How are
change
you
federal
going
law.
to
That's a
address
good
the
point.
mental
So
health situation that's going to be part of this bill if you can't get
Exactly.
the info now?
well, I don't think we need to know.
How are you going to go about it?
I don't think we need to know what the killer suffered from to know that he was mentally disturbed. Okay? And I don't think we need to know what he was diagnosed with to know that we have extraordinary shortcomings in our mental health system. For people between the ages of 18 to 24, there's virtually no coverage unless you're extremely poor or extremely wealthy. For kids in our younger grades, there's no earlier identification for them, and we haven't done a sufficient job of educating the people around them most, our educators, with signs what to look for. Excuse me, sir, yes, there are. For example, one of the few things that people came up and testified to and said, if you do these things, you can prevent something like this from happening, was the threat assessment teams for our schools. We've put threat assessment teams in all of our schools. We've had experts from across the country say those types of things can help.
Good.
So there are some things that can do that. But, you know, we've gotten a lot from the police recently because, and I didn't do press releases on it like others, okay, the governor and others, but I called Colonel Stebbins and had a private conversation with him about the impact of his comments showing up in the daily news have on people in the town I represent. And it wasn't long after that conversation that we got a meeting. And it wasn't long after that meeting that we actually got the report released. About the weapons used, about the ammunition, about the time it took, about how he got in there. So I think we're never going to get all of the information that we would want. I've had a lot of people say, well, what's in this toxicology report? Well, is that going to change a position on magazines?
I mean, keeping your eye on the ball, and if that could be part of the conversation, is that maybe psychotropic drugs have
Sure,
played a part?
but let me tell you why I support the magazine limit, okay? There are a lot of people in public safety, and there are specifically families of first graders in Newtown who will sit down with you and look you in the eye and say their child is alive today because they were able to run out of the first grade classroom. He killed 15 kids of 15 kids in one first grade classroom. He killed 5 of 16 in another.
John.
11 escaped. Ron, I'm going to tell you what the families tell me. If you want to say they're lying,
That's
you go
emotion.
talk to them.
You're ruling on
They will
emotion,
tell
you're
you.
not
I'm
ruling
not
on a
ruling.
rule of law.
You know what, Ron? I watch you because Palin puts his posts up. You say I can't vote on something because of emotion. So let me bring this.
You should.
Well, let me bring this.
We're not a democracy, John. We're a republic.
Just let him
Let me
finish though.
let me bring this back home because we have a good man in Bill Kapinski here. Bill was first selectman of this town. There was a threat that 18,000 acres of aquarium land, which had been sold to an English company, were going to be up for sale. 9,000 in this town alone. It would have destroyed the character of this town. You want to ask me if I was emotional about that? Yes. Guess what, Ron? 18,000 acres of land protected forever. 9,000 in the district I represent, and I led the charge. And I was emotional about it. So if you ask me, should I make decisions for my district based on things I get fired up about? Yes.
But that wasn't
So don't tell me I should recuse myself.
That was not contrary to the rule of law, John. You're within your confines.
Ron, I will meet with you at any point, whether I'm a state senator or not, after the courts rule if this is challenged. But I don't believe this is unconstitutional. You can't tell me it is unconstitutional when the courts haven't decided yet. By the way, the very document, which I think you and I both respect, sets out the very way this should work. Okay? It sets out 3 branches of government that are equal. It says the legislative branch can pass laws. But there's a check on the legislative branch and the judicial branch to determine whether those laws violate the Constitution. And then we, the people, on our own or through our elected representatives, can choose to amend the Constitution. That's the way the system works. And it's a great system.
I think that